Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome back to Canard Boulevard. Before we get started on the airplanes, there's something I need to deal with. This is a problem that's cropped up in the comments of many of the videos that I've posted in the last couple of years, and this same type of comment keeps coming up over and over again, and some of those comments have gotten really nasty, so we're going to deal with that right now. Alright, I got the message, guys. No more hair comments in the videos, alright? I got it. I took care of the problem. Let's get on with this video. So today I have my daughter Lily as my assistant. It's a very cold day and she is looking very underdressed for the weather we have here. I am removing the prop bolts from the propeller. She's holding onto the prop because you considerable amount of torque on those bolts, so you need someone to hold the propeller as you are removing them. There's the old propeller off, and now I'm going to remove the extension. Well, actually, you can't remove the extension because they're torqued on there too, so you need the prop on there to resist the torque that you're doing. So now that I've got those loosened off, we'll pull that off, pull the ring gear off, and pull the belt off. Now I'm going to put the new alternator belt on and the balancer. This balancer is something new. It's for experimental aircraft only, and instead of dynamically balancing the prop on the ground, you put this balancer on, which has liquid mercury inside, and it dynamically balances the prop all the times it's running. So even when you're in flight, if there's any alteration, it takes that vibration out because it keeps the propeller system completely perfectly balanced. So now that that's on there and we got the extension on, time to unbox my new Kato prop. We'll bring that over, get it fitted on there, and start fitting the bolts on. Now I realized, oh, we forgot to put the compression plate on there, so we'll put that compression plate on, start threading the bolts in, while Lily holds the prop in place for me. And as we're doing that, we're looking and seeing, those bolts are a little bit too long because I did get longer bolts. And then I realized the new prop is actually thinner than the old prop. So I'm going to use the old bolts because those are shorter. They were too short for the original prop that was on there, but they're just the right size for the new prop. So now I'm pulling out the brand new bolts that I bought that I won't be using. And I've got a little bit of a problem because I can't get one of them out. Here I'm pulling all the other ones out, but this one won't come out. It seems to be seized in place. So I'm trying all kinds of different things. I'm back and forth. I got some penetrating fluid in there, and no matter what I do, it is just not coming out. So it's not been a good day. It's been a very bad day. As you will notice, my new Kato prop is sitting on the floor over here instead of on the airplane, and the old Kato prop is hanging up on the wall over there, which is fine, I guess. So what exactly has happened? I did get the balancer on, so I took off the extension, took off the old prop, took off the extension, took off the ring gear, put on the new alternator belt, ring gear back on, balancer on, extension on, not torqued all the way, but on. And then, because in order to torque, you need to have the propeller to hang on to. Got the propeller on, and then I started threading the bolts through the compression plate, through the propeller, into the lugs on the extension. Threaded each of them in, a good few turns to make sure everything's seated and working right. And then started tightening them up in the pattern that you're supposed to do. And then all of a sudden I noticed this one right here, it just stopped. It would not turn. It still had a good inch on the outside. I'm like, oh, that's odd. So then I backed it out and it stopped. And I thought, okay, well, let me try and see if I can push it in. And what I ended up getting was less than about 30 degrees of rotation, and it was dead seized in either direction. I'm like, oh crap, something's gone wrong with the threads. So after a couple hours of messing with it, I tried freezing, I tried penetrating oil, I tried absolutely everything. I finally gave in and used an impact wrench on it, and that got it out. And just as I thought, the threads are just shredded. They're just torn up. I don't know if you can see that. So here's the bolt. You can see the threads are just destroyed. And I hoped, well, I knew that the threaded lugs inside the Sabre extension are extremely hard alloy, and I thought, well, maybe the threads in the lug have survived, I've got another bolt. I'll just put the bolt in and that'll be that. But as you can see, the threads inside the lug itself are also destroyed. And unfortunately, these lugs cannot be replaced in the field. You need a 12-ton press to do it because they're interference fit. So that means that this extension has to go back to Sabre in Texas, which means this airplane is not going to Sun Infant in a week, unfortunately. Which sucks, because I had a week off from work. We were going to go sit by the pool and go see airplanes. I've never been to Sun and Fun before. So yeah, it really, really sucks. I was so close. This was the last thing I had to do before the plane was ready to go. And now we're weeks away again from being able to fly. I'm just gutted. So I'm gonna pull this off and we'll box it up and get it off to Texas and they can push this out. Not the ending I hope for this video, but it'll be a to be continued, I guess, in a couple of weeks. All right, I know I'm going to get a lot of questions, so I should probably explain exactly what happened and why. What I experienced here is something called galling. When you have a stainless steel threaded fastener and you have dissimilar metals, especially like we do here, we have cadmium plated bolts threading into stainless steel lugs. The reason stainless steel doesn't rust is because it generates an oxide layer on the outer layer of the metal, very, very thin, like molecules thin. And that prevents oxidation or rusting of the stainless steel. That layer can actually be scraped away. If you are screwing in bolts that have any kind of contamination, dirt, grit, anything on them at all, and it starts scraping away that oxide layer in the stainless steel, it can cause what's called galling, where it scrapes up the surface of the stainless steel, and as more of it gets scraped up, it becomes more and more abrasive, and it scrapes more and more up until you start building up almost like a wedge of tiny bits of stainless steel shavings that it's created. And that is incredibly destructive because it will then start abrading and tearing up the threads. So as once I started threading that in, I could feel a little bit of resistance because apparently that bolt was a little bit dirty. So as I started threading it in, I felt the resistance, I pushed it in, it was starting to scrape up that oxide layer until it scraped up enough that it just jammed and seized. So then I tried backing it out, and the exact same thing happened going backwards. So now I was stuck with a bolt that would only turn about this much, and the threads were galled. At that point, the threads weren't yet destroyed, but to get that bolt out, you have to use force. I used an impact wrench, which just shredded the threads, just tore them out. So that's what caused that. To prevent that, I'm going to clean both the lugs and the bolts fastidiously. You will see in the video now where I am actually using tools that I got, brushes and special bolt cleaners, to clean all remnants of any kind of contamination off the threads before I install these bolts, because I don't want this to happen again. All right, back to the video. It's a new day, so we're back in the hangar, and I'm going to clean up the prop hub, flange, and then we got the balancer on there and put in the new repaired extension with the new lug in place, and we're going to torque up those bolts as best we can. You do them in a specific pattern, and you do them incrementally. So there you can see I was cleaning out the threads. I've got one of the bolts that the threads were a little bit dirty, so I needed to chase those with a tap to clean those threads up. And I'm going through each of the bolts now and cleaning the threads one by one to make sure that they're good and ready to go in and aren't going to cause a problem. Get the new prop on there, get the compression plate, put the bolts in by hand, make sure that they're threading and they're not cross-threaded or anything. And now we're going to start incrementally torquing those bolts down and doing it about 5 pounds per foot-pounds at a time in a specific pattern. I've got to put a total of 40 foot-pounds on these, and that little wrench just wasn't giving me enough leverage. So now I've got the big torque wrench out, and I'm doing incrementally up to 40 foot-pounds. And then I'll do the bolts at the back on the hub that I couldn't finish before, and get those up incrementally again to 50 foot-pounds of torque. And it's a little awkward done that with the prop in place, but I was able to do that. Next, we get out the stainless wire and safety wire the bolts on the prop flange where we're actually mounting onto the engine. And each of those
in pairs. You wire two together and they kind of pull the bolts so that they stay tight and can't come undone. And then once we've finished the safety wiring, I'll dab on some torque seal on there so that if any of those bolts do move, I can see it. So now that that's on, we can tension up the alternator. So I'm doing a test there. You can see I'm pulling the bolt with 14 pounds of force, and you should see 5/16 of deflection. Test that, tighten it in place, good to go.
All right, we got lots done tonight. As you can see, the new prop is now mounted. The hub, which the extension that I had to send off to Sabre, came back today, so it's on. Everything's good. Safety wired the extension onto the engine crankshaft. I have torqued. These are torqued. The bolts on the prop are torqued, but we got to torque this to the correct setting and then let it rest for a bit. Because the prop, the core of it is wood, and it expands and shrinks and it squishes a bit. So we're going to give it some time to rest. I'll give it a day or two. We'll retorque it, then we'll safety wire it, put the spinner on, put the cowls on, and go flying. I never thought this day was going to come. It looks like the only good day we're going to have is Saturday. Today is Wednesday. For the next at least a week, and only one good day of weather that is not raining, and that looks like it's Saturday, and it's supposed to be pretty windy. So fingers crossed that the weather cooperates and we get to go up on Saturday and do some initial test flights. If nothing on Saturday, I do want to torque this up, safety wire, put the spinner on, and then take it out and start up the engine, test the engine, test the prop, make sure that the tracking is correct, that there's no imbalance, that the prop isn't slipping. Just some ground runs just to do some initial tests before we go flying. And that's it. I was going to continue this video and record what the testing was on Saturday, but you know what? I think that'll be a different video. We'll leave this one just as the prop. The prop is done. It's on. It's working. Everything looks good. So the next video will be the buttoning up and hopefully initial flight testing. Well, ground runs, flight testing, that sort of thing. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below. And if I could get you to click like on this video, it really helps me out when you do that, especially when you also subscribe to the channel and click that little bell, because then it lets YouTube know that, hey, you like airplanes, you like this video, I'm going to show this video to other people who like airplanes, and then more people get to see my channel. It really helps me out when you do that. That's it. Thanks for watching.